Welcome to this Prepare for IELTS video in which we're going through a model answer to an essay on the topic of communication. This is an explanation plus opinion question. Let's take a look. For many, being allowed to say what you want without fear of punishment is a basic human right. Why do people believe in the freedom of speech? Will the huge technological changes affecting us make it easier or more difficult for citizens to enjoy freedom of speech? We'll go through our model answer now and show you some of the great language which you can use. And we'll start with entitled. If you are entitled to something, then you have a natural right to it, and you should not have to work or do anything else to get it. The word whichever is useful, meaning any one from a set of possibilities. It does not matter which one. So if we are entitled to express ourselves in whichever way we want, it might mean through writing, speaking, singing, dancing, or any other option. We can use nonetheless, and this shows a contrast and indicates that the next clause is true despite what was written before. So we have the clause in blue, then we have nonetheless, and the new information after nonetheless is true despite what is in the previous sentence. Here we have a nice phrase which lets us introduce an important point in a formal way. So it has been pointed out that. And remember, this is followed with that and a that clause. And that clauses are great for making your writing more formal. To enable means to make something possible, to make it possible for somebody to do something. So you can enable somebody to do something, or you can enable something to happen. And those in power is a nice phrase meaning people in authority, the government. If a question or idea is worthy of consideration, then it deserves to be thought about, spoken, or written about. And this is a nice phrase for the end of an introduction. When you have your thesis statement and you want to say that these questions are important or interesting, you can say they are worthy of consideration. We can start a sentence with a verbal noun or ing form instead of using a conditional sentence, and that gives us more formality. So here we've got permitting everyone to freely communicate their beliefs benefits individuals and society alike. We could write, if we permit everyone to freely communicate their beliefs, it benefits individuals and society alike. But avoiding the if clause and using the ing form of the verb seems more formal. And we can use a like with two groups of people or things to show that both groups are included or that both groups are the same. So here we are referring to individuals and society alike. So both individuals and society. To be fulfilled means feeling happy or content because you get everything from life that you need. You may refer to a sense of fulfillment. And if you enshrine a right in law, you protect that right by making it illegal to ignore or deny it. That's a lovely collocation and very complex. Not many IELTS candidates use that. And of course, in essays, you often want to refer to what should be law. We can use colons. So colons are these two dots, which you can see a couple of examples of here in purple. And we use colons to connect two pieces of information. The information after the colon, here it comes, often clarifies, explains, or provides an example for the information before the colon. So here we have enshrining this right in law strengthens the state politically, and the information after this, those allowed to speak their minds are less likely to want to bring down the government, explains why the information before the colon is true. An interesting thing about colons is you can follow them with nouns or noun phrases. You don't have to follow a colon with a clause. Those in power are in a totalitarian state, have complete control, and they do not give freedom to the people who live there. So understanding phrases like totalitarian state and authoritarian regime, which we'll come to later, is very useful in essays connected to politics, society, and, as we see here, communication. We often use the present perfect with adverbs of frequency. So here we have always. And we do this to describe things which were true in the past and which are still true now. So there have always been problems. There have sometimes been disagreements. The situation has never changed. These are examples where you combine present perfect with an adverb of frequency to talk about a situation which was true in the past and is also true now. And we can put comment adverbs at the beginning of a sentence to show the reader our feelings about the information in that sentence. By comment adverbs, I mean adverbs which tell you how the writer feels about that whole idea, the idea in blue. So, troublingly, worryingly, concerningly, disappointingly, hilariously are some examples of the ones that you can use. There are many, many, many comment adverbs that you can start a sentence with, and they give a sense of being quite formal. We often use the present perfect again, and this time to refer to a period of time which started in the past and continues up until now. So here we have, over a dramatically brief period, the situation has changed. Law enforcement agencies in authoritarian countries have become capable of monitoring the public, etc. So over a dramatically brief period refers to a period of time which started in the past and continues until now. So over is quite common in these phrases, over recent years, over the last few decades. We can use for in a similar way, for the last 20 years, or we can use since, so since 1990. And we can describe the police and other groups which work for the state and try to stop crime as law enforcement agencies, and individual policewomen and policemen as law enforcement officers. This looks quite formal. It works well in an IELTS exam. Here we have authoritarian, so we've referred to a totalitarian regime, and now we have authoritarian country or authoritarian state or authoritarian regime, and this is a government which demands that people completely obey the rules, and it does not give people any freedom. So useful to know words like totalitarian, authoritarian, democratic. To curb means to control or limit something which is not wanted. So you might curb violence on television, or governments who don't like it might curb free speech. And owing to means because of, and we can use this phrase to link two parts of a sentence. So here, owing to the revolution in interactive technology, this is the cause, and now we have the result. The secret services are now able to police social media and collect huge amounts of data. So we can put owing to at the beginning of the cause and follow it with the result. The Secret Service or secret services is a government organization which tries to stop foreign spies from getting damaging information or harming the country. And remember that some nouns can also be verbs. So if you control something which could be dangerous, you police it. So to police can be a verb as well as a noun. We can use relative pronouns and relative clauses, and this can make your sentences complex and cohesive. So here we have which, referring back to data. That makes your sentence into a complex sentence and also links two parts of it very well. An official is a person with responsibility in a government or other organization. Some people think an official is anybody who works in an office, but this is not true. Officials usually work for the government. If you are tempted to do something, then you have a strong feeling that you want to do something, often something which you should not do. So maybe you have some chocolate in your cupboard and you know you really shouldn't eat it, but you're tempted. You think, oh, I would love that chocolate. A justification is a reason which you give for doing something. Often when you do something which others disagree with, so you attempt to justify, the verb justify, what you've done. If something is described as unjustified or unjustifiable, it means there is no justification for it. You cannot provide a good reason to explain it. To snoop means to look around secretly, trying to find things, trying to find information which other people do not want you to have. And we can use in order to describe an aim or purpose. Using this phrase is a really good way of linking ideas together. So we have the text in blue, then in order to, and then the purpose or reason for some having already used the justification that snooping is necessary. We can use this with or without a noun to refer back to an earlier idea. Again, this links two sentences. Linking sentences is always a strength. And if you have freedom of speech, then you have the right to say anything you want. You can criticize the government, for example. You can also talk about freedom of movement, freedom of assembly, freedom of association, freedom of expression. So there are lots of freedoms it's worth knowing about. You can often use them in your essay. If you staunchly defend something, then you fight very hard to protect it against its enemies and opponents. So particularly with a principle or idea, we can use this and use the phrase to staunchly defend to say that you strongly agree with it and would fight for it. And to curtail means to reduce or limit something or to stop something before it has finished. Signatories are people or organizations, maybe governments, who have signed an agreement. And the United Declaration of Human Rights is a nice thing to refer to in your writing. This is an agreement signed by many countries to protect the freedoms and rights of all people. To uphold means to defend or protect a law, a principle, or a decision. So a useful phrase. And if something is precious, then it has great value, maybe because it's expensive or because it's important. Here is the model answer in full. You might like to read through that. Now you've got a good idea about the very strong language in it. And if you're feeling confident, it's time for our quiz. We have some multiple choice questions. Can you answer? Firstly, freedom of speech is a precious right and we must something it. Can you find the missing verb? It is, of course, we must uphold it. We must keep it safe. Second question. One of my colleagues left her chocolate on the table in our office. I was really something to take it and eat it. This is true. The missing word there is tempted. If you're very tempted, you very strongly want to do something, even though you know you probably shouldn't. The question of whether free speech is vital is certainly something of consideration. This can be the final sentence in your introduction, and we need a phrase meaning it's a good thing to talk about, write about, or think about. It is, of course, worthy of consideration. We can write that it is worth considering. So option D is wrong, but if the last word was considering, we could say it is certainly worth considering. And nobody wants to live in a something state where the government has complete control and doesn't give any freedom to its people. What type of state would that be? A totalitarian state. Next question. We need to something. The amount of alcohol-related violence in our cities. It's becoming a serious problem and must be reduced. So we need a verb to make something smaller, to make something less. And it is, of course, curb. We need to curb the amount of violence. Next question. Most agree that we should all be entitled to express ourselves in something way we want. Is it wherever? Is it whenever? Is it whoever? Or is it whichever? I think you know. It's whichever. We hope you found that useful and that now you might like to have a go at writing that essay using some of the great language and ideas that you've seen there. We recommend that you look at the other videos in this section. They will help you as well. And we hope you've enjoyed this. We look forward to seeing you soon. Thank you for watching.